Research Officer, Harman, to introduce the speaker and the chair.
Sat Shri Akal, respected dignitaries and dear friends, I welcome you all. As you all know, Bhai Vir Singh Sahitya Sadan organises a monthly lecture series on relevant issues for Punjab and Sikhi. Last month we had a lecture by Sardar Harinder Singh on Sikhi and history, and for today's lecture on the rise of Sikhs in the turbulent 18th century, we have among us an eminent writer, playwright, Sikh historian, scholar, podcaster, Sardar Sarabpreet Singh. He has written a novel, short story collections and books on Sikh history. He is also the writer-narrator of the podcast Story of the Sikhs, which has listeners in over 90 countries, and he is the founder of the Gurmat Sangeet Project. Sardar Sarabpreet Singh, he has a very deep relationship with Sadan, and we have already hosted him for the book discussions on his books. The critically acclaimed The Sufi Nightingale and the best-selling The Camel Merchant of Philadelphia, that has stories from the court of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And we are also very grateful for him that last month on 28th, he gave us the honor to witness him perform the Sufi Sant Shah Hussein's Kafiyan at the Sufiana Sham organized at the Bhai Vir Singh Niwas Sthan in Amritsar. His latest book, Dekh Dekh Fateh, Cauldron, Sword and Victory, The Rise of Sikhs, is the second volume in the Story of Sikhs series. In the first volume, he told us the story of the Sikh Gurus, and in this volume, starting with the rebellion of Baba Banda Singh Bahadur, he now turns his attention to Nawab Kapoor Singh and his cohort of doughty Sikh chiefs who became the masters of Punjab. He has given us a very vivid and compelling account as of the Sikh chiefs who engaged with the British, the Marathas, the Jats and the Rohillas, sometimes as the allies and sometimes as the adversaries. His research work is based on the unique mix of eyewitness accounts, secondary sources, as well as the translations from Braj and Punjabi poetry. Dear sir, I welcome you here. And to chair today's session, we have among us our esteemed Senior Vice President of the Executive Council of Bhai Vir Singh Sahitya Sadan, Sardar G.B.S. Sidhu. He was former Secretary of Research and Analysis Wing of Government of India, and he is also the author of two books, Sikkim, Dawn of Democracy and the Khalistan Conspiracy. I welcome you, sir, and with your permission, I would like to start the program. I invite Sardar Sarabpreet Singh to give his presentation.
We generally welcome our guests with a book, not with flowers, because they don't last long. So I request Sidhu Sahab to present this book too.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Is this mic working? Yes. I'm delighted to return to the Bhai Vir Singh Sahitya Sadan. Hanji, is it better now? Can everyone hear me? Bhai Vir Singh Sahitya Sadan, which has been doing stellar work over the years. I have fond memories of my visits here. My very first book, The Camel Merchant of Philadelphia, was launched here almost 5 years ago, and I was here last year as well when I was in India to talk about my last novel, The Sufi's Nightingale. Now I can hear myself as well.
Yes.
I'm delighted to see a lot of young people in the audience today. This is something that I actively try to do whenever I'm traveling. My publisher, I'm sure, would want me to go to places where books can be sold. My interest is primarily to reach out to young people and maybe try to inspire them. So I've been touring in India for almost a month now, launching my latest book, Cauldron, Sword and Victory, Dekh Dekh Fateh, The Rise of the Sikhs. And I've made every effort to visit as many universities and colleges as I could to meet with young people, both in India as well as in Pakistan. I had the good fortune to spend about a week in Lahore before coming here, launching the Pakistani edition of the Sufi's Nightingale. I could talk about that for a long time, but that's not our subject today. Today we have gathered to talk about this very interesting period in not just Sikh history, but really the history of the Indian subcontinent, particularly the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. This is personally a very important time for me. I will digress a little and share with you a little bit about my own personal journey, because I am a fairly new writer. I've been fortunate in that I've been very prolific in the last 4 or 5 years, but I spent most of my career in technology, first technology development and then managing various tech businesses. So I went to the US as a young man. I was 24 years old. I had studied engineering at BITS Pilani, and I'd gone there to get an advanced degree in computer science. I was the typical public school educated young person who sometimes is very disdainful of his own culture. That's who I was when I left this country. And it's very common for people, once they're exiles, whether the exile is self-imposed or not, to start casting about for their roots. Usually it happens when your hair turns gray. I was fortunate that my process of trying to engage with who I was, if we want to call it that, started very early in my mid-20s. One of my entry points was history. When I left India, I could not read Gurmukhi. So the only language in which I could engage with history was English. So that's how my journey started. I found a few books on Sikh history that were available, most notably J.D. Cunningham's History of the Sikhs, which was written in the 19th century. Cunningham served the East India Company, and he was posted in Ludhiana, which was the westernmost outpost of the British Empire, staring at the Khalsa Raj of Ranjit Singh across the Satluj River. So Cunningham had the opportunity to observe the Sikhs very closely. And he wrote this fabulous history of the Sikhs. I read this, more than 25 years ago. And Cunningham's descriptions are still vivid in my mind. His writing about the Sikh gurus was very informative, but the most interesting part of Cunningham's work to me was the period that we're talking about today. The period between 1708 and 1780. So what's the significance of these dates? 1708 was the year in which the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, left the world. 1780 was the year when Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the to-be Maharaja Ranjit Singh, was born. So these 72 years that elapsed between these two events are hugely, hugely important in Sikh history for sure, but in the history of the Indian subcontinent. From a personal level, this period inspired me tremendously. So, I was this young man who didn't identify with who he was, where he had come around. I had a turban on my head, but that was the extent of my connection to my heritage, if you will. The turban remained on my head only because I came from a very conservative family. So I knew that if I gave up my nominal Sikh identity, it would be very hurtful to my parents. So I dragged my identity around like a burden very grudgingly. So that was me in my mid-20s. And then I read Cunningham's book, and particularly when I came to this time period in history, for the first time in my life, I felt a stirring of pride in who I was. And why did that happen? Because I suddenly realized what cost my forebears had to pay to keep the identity that I dragged around like a burden. The history of this period is tremendously inspiring. It was a miraculous period. Why do I say that? Let's go back a few hundred years ago and talk about the revolution of Guru Nanak. So Guru Nanak is, of course, the founder of the Sikh faith, and I have posited in all of my work that every idea in Sikhism can be traced all the way back to Guru Nanak Sahib. And that should be no surprise to anyone, because the 9 gurus who followed him were simply manifestations of the same divine light. Western scholars have tended to dichotomize the Sikh gurus. So they emphasize the difference between Guru Nanak Sahib and Guru Gobind Singh Ji without really understanding deeply what makes them similar. So going back to Guru Nanak Sahib and talking about his revolution, there were several things that were profoundly important in the faith that Guru Nanak Sahib had created. It's not our subject today. We won't dwell at them at length. But one of Guru Nanak Sahib's most fundamental rebellions was against the tyranny of the caste system. Because the caste system, which may have had very benign roots in ancient times, by the 15th century had calcified into an instrument of oppression. So think about society like a pyramid. So the so-called high caste sat at the top, and as you went down the pyramid, the vast majority of the people were the so-called low castes, who were relentlessly oppressed by the high castes. So that was Guru Nanak Sahib's rebellion, and one of the reasons why so many turned to his path was his promise of equality between the castes, equality between the sexes, was hugely attractive to most people. But if we visualize the pyramid, where do you think most of the Sikhs came from? It's almost a rhetorical question. Now, if a new faith is promising equality, it's not likely to appeal very much to the ones who sit at the top of the pyramid. It's very logical. I mean, if you're already at the top, why would you care about equality? There would be a few enlightened people, but in the most part, a lot of the followers of Guru Nanak, the Sikh Panth, came from the so-called lower castes of society. Many of them had been relentlessly oppressed for millennia because society absolutely sanctioned that discrimination. 1708, the Panth has existed for some time. There's a body of Sikhs who draw great inspiration from their Guru. The Guru is a human. There have been 10 of them. They have been reassuring figures who lead the Panth or the community. So for the first time, the Khalsa Panth, the Sikh Panth, has some measure of confidence, recognition. They are a distinct community based on ideals, presided over by a succession of gurus. And now all of a sudden, the Guru is gone. So the Guru is clear, is on his deathbed. He's about to leave the world. Can you imagine the kind of consternation Sikhs must have felt at that time as the end of Guru Gobind Singh Ji approached, inevitably the question was asked, who is going to lead us now? And the Guru said something which, people didn't even understand perhaps at that time. A lot of this is documented, by the way, in the writings of one of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's beloved court poets, by Nandalal Goya, who is considered to be one of the finest scholars of Persian that the subcontinent has ever known. His writings in Persian have often been compared to Hafiz. That's the level of poetry that he wrote. So Bhai Nandalal records Guru Gobind Singh Ji's last wishes when he says to them two important things. One, he says, the scripture of the Sikhs, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, which was first created by the fifth Guru, Guru Arjan, and which was extended by Guru Gobind Singh Ji when he added the writings of his own father, Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib. And also, this is common knowledge, I'm sure all of you know this, the scripture also contained the writings of Muslim Peers and Hindu Bhagats, whose ideology and whose writings matched with that of the Gurus. So there's this very eclectic scripture which has been prepared. So the Guru says, there will be no more human Gurus after me. Your Guru, from a spiritual perspective, will be the Guru Granth Sahib. So people understood it, I'm sure there must have still been a lot of consternation. But by then, the Guru just didn't have spiritual power. The Guru had another kind of power, temporal power, which was manifested in the Guru's armies, the Guru's weapons, all the warriors who had flocked to the Guru's standard from the time of Guru Hargobind. So, who was going to lead the Sikh Panth? There, Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave them instructions which were also revolutionary. He said, I turn my temporal power to all of you. I give it back to you. So he gave his temporal power to the Sikh Panth, which was to have huge implications in the time period that we're talking about. So let's ponder that for a second. Was this something revolutionary? Yes and no. It seemed revolutionary, but I talked about the fact that everything in Sikhi can be traced all the way back to Guru Nanak. So when Guru Gobind Singh Ji returned his temporal power back to his followers, there were echoes of something that had happened in the last days of Guru Nanak Sahib's life. We go to the banks of the river Ravi in Kartarpur when Guru Nanak Sahib is in his old age, and he takes his humblest disciple Bhai Lehna, sits him on his gaddi and bows before him, much to the shock of everybody assembled there. When does a guru bow to his disciple? So Guru Nanak Sahib established a fundamental principle that day. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji's returning power back to the Khalsa Panth was no different from that. But there were practical questions. How will this power be administered? It's one thing to say that all of you are empowered, but armies need generals, people need leaders. So the Guru had already given institutions to his followers. One of the most significant ones was given on Vaisakhi of 1699. There's this very colorful story about the creation of the Khalsa that we don't have time to get into today. But during that ceremony, the institution of the Panj Pyare was created. So the Panj Pyare, the five beloved ones, once again, in the tradition of Bhai Lehna, who was ready to give everything to his Guru and was exalted as a result, when the Guru asked for 5 Sikhs to give up their heads for him, these 5 men, drawn from all over the Indian subcontinent, from Lahore, from Delhi, from Bidar, from Orissa, hailing mostly from the so-called low castes, were exalted as the Panj Pyare. And the Panj Pyare became a powerful institution for the administering of the Khalsa Panth, because whenever the Panth subsequently needed to make decisions, the Panj Pyare would be an important instrument for making those decisions. Another important institution that was formulated was the Sarbat Khalsa, which is also hugely important in this time period. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji empowered the entire Panth, he created a unique spirit in the Panth, the spirit of republicanism, with a lowercase r. I'm not talking about Republican politics. I'm talking about the notion that each one is equal. Nobody is lesser than anybody else. This spirit of republicanism that Guru Gobind Singh Ji imparted to his followers when he turned his temporal power to them was really the magic behind the miracle. And what was the miracle? In 1708, we have this now leaderless community consisting mostly of people drawn from the lowest rungs of society are left orphaned. And then, a scant 90 years later, Ranjit Singh enters Lahore, becomes the emperor, and goes on to establish one of the mightiest kingdoms that the Indian subcontinent has ever known. Was this not a miracle? It is to me. This is the story of how the miracle actually came about. Ranjit Singh is a name that the world universally knows, but there were others who came before Ranjit Singh who had a huge role to play in creating the conditions that made Ranjit Singh successful. And it's ironical that Ranjit Singh was so successful, and the focus turned to one monarch, to the extent that the Republican spirit within the Sikhs was systematically destroyed during his reign. And even though he was singularly successful after his passing, the dying away of that Republican spirit really spelled the doom of Sikh power. So this is the time when you had not one, but a multitude of leaders, all of whom would refuse to accept anyone other than the Almighty and the Guru as their superior, would not bow to anyone, and were fiercely, fiercely committed to the ideals of it. So let's go to Nanded in the year 1708, or just before 1708, during the last days of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Guru Gobind Singh Ji is on his way south, and he stops at the compound of a Bairagi sadhu who is variously known as Madhav Das, Narayan Das, who is considered to be a powerful magician who has studied with great sorcerers and has all kinds of supernatural powers. So there are colorful stories about the meeting of Guru Gobind Singh Ji with Madhav Das, who first challenges the Guru and then very quickly realizes that he is in the presence of somebody unlike anyone that he has ever encountered. Small digression. This is a deeply researched book. Those of you who end up reading it will find tons and tons of references. A lot of traditional scholars are referenced. But one of the things that is tremendously important to me as a writer of Sikh history, and more so as a storyteller grounded in Sikh history, are our own sources. So traditional historians will often discount these sources, citing difficulties of verifying them from a historical perspective. I am not a professional historian, so I am not bound by those chains, and my purpose is to inspire more than anything else. Also entertain a little, It doesn't matter if you read a history book and you enjoy it. I mean, what a concept, right? You read a history book and you enjoy it. So, after I learned how to read Gurmukhi, a whole new world opened up to me. We are sitting in the Bhai Vir Singh Sahitya Sadan. I mean, I feel beggared that I could not engage with Bhai Vir Singh for a lot of my adult life because I simply couldn't read Gurmukhi. And when I started to read Gurmukhi, Bhai Vir Singh is not an easy writer to read. You have to do a lot of work. And did it pay off? I mean, when I started engaging with Bhai Vir Singh, particularly when I was writing my last book on the life of the Sikh Gurus, it was like new worlds started opening up to me. So when I read Bhai Vir Singh, oftentimes in his account of the Gurus, he cites beautiful poetry written in Braj Bhasha. So I encountered that poetry, I read it, I struggled to understand it. When I understood it, I found it tremendously inspiring. And all of that poetry, the great figures in Sikh literature, who is Mahakavi Santokh Singh Ji. So he has written this massive work called the Gurpratap Suraj Granth, which is colloquially known as Suraj Prakash, which has the kind of history that you will not find in typical history books. It's all beautiful poetry, and history is recounted with a tremendous amount of color. So my last book, volume 1 of the Story of the Sikh series, drew heavily upon the writings of Bhai Vir Singh, and then via Bhai Vir Singh, Mahakavi Santokh Singh. Similarly, when I was writing this book, I based a lot of my work in this on a few other works of also Braj Bhasha poetry. One of them was the fabulous Prachin Panth Prakash, written by Ratan Singh Pangu. And just a small side note, after the Sikh Empire fell, the British had always been very curious about the origins of Sikh power. I mean, they couldn't understand why the Sikhs were the way they were. So Ratan Singh Pangu was commissioned by Captain Murray, who was in the British service, to write a history of the Sikhs, which would explain the origins of Sikh power. That's how this fabulous work, the Prachin Panth Prakash, came into being. And just like Mahakavi Santokh Singh's work, the Prachin Panth Prakash recounts the history of that time period in vivid detail in poetry. It's absolutely fabulous to read, and I'm actually going to share a few excerpts from that. A lot of the poetry appears in this book in translation. So I'm going to go to Ratan Singh Pangu to share with you his conception of the submission of Baba Banda Singh Bahadur. Tab un kaheo main banda tora, main tabhi Sikh guru tu mora, pichli baat maaf hum kije, because he's been very rude to the guru before that. Ab hue fir to ji ayo kije, अब मैं भयो तुम्हारो दास, सो मैं करूं हुक्म होए खास, हमको कीजिए अपनो दास, दास जन राखो निज पास. So this is how Ratan Singh Pangu imagines the submission of Madhadas, who declares to the Guru that I am your banda, your slave, and then the Guru gives him his new name. From now on, you will be known as Banda Singh. So Banda Singh's journey starts with education. He knows nothing about the Sikh faith. So he spends time with the other Sikhs in Nandir, learning about the Sikh faith, learning about the Gurus that preceded Guru Gobind Singh Ji. He is deeply, deeply inspired by the stories of Guru Nanak Sahib, in particular the stories of Guru Har Gobind Sahib, the battles, the sacrifice of Guru Tegh Bahadur. And then, when he learns about the fate of the Guru Sahibzadas, the older Sahibzadas, dying fighting in the Battle of Chamkaur, and the younger ones being whipped alive by Wazir Khan of Sadan. All kinds of emotions are surging inside Banda Singh Bahadur as he adopts his new face and becomes a member of the Khalsa Panth. The Guru's end is approaching near, and the Guru summons Baba Banda Singh and gives him a mission. Satgur kahi tum jog yeh kar, जा साहिबजादियन घात मार, सरंद को मार फिर मारी पहाड़, सतगुर सौंपे तिस यह कार, सिखन रख असिख संघरियो, दास हुए ता उसे उपरियो, दिलियों लग कर दंगा मचाओ, पंजाब पर्वत सब धूल मिलाओ. So I need to unwrap this a little for you. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji had set up his own state in the town of Anandpur. Anandpur had been purchased, it was a village which had been purchased by his father Guru Tegh Bahadur from the Raja of Kehlur. So after Guru Gobind Singh Ji set up his kingdom in Anandpur, it became a flourishing center, a great center of art and culture. A fort was built, a large army was prepared. Anandpur Sahib was ringed by 7 kingdoms, hill kingdoms, who were ruled by the so-called hill Rajas, the closest one being Kehlur, whose Raja Bhim Chand, Guru Sahib had already fought against in his first battle, the Battle of Pangani. So these 7 hill kingdoms that surrounded the Guru were ruled by powerful kings whose families had been ruling for 800, 900 years. So these were the blue bloods of the blue bloods. Some of them traced their ancestry to the sun, some of them traced their ancestry to the moon. Powerful, haughty, hugely entitled. And now all of a sudden among them, there is this new powerful figure who has an army. When he marches, his followers have the temerity to beat the nagara, a big war drum. Intense jealousy ensues because they see Guru Gobind Singh as an upstart. The Sikhs are dismissed. His father to them was a humble fakir. So to them, why is this son of a fakir acting like a king? So they tried, there are colorful stories about their engagements with Guru Sahib, which are told in the first book. I won't get into those. But the jealousy of the hill Rajas was a huge factor in the misfortunes that afflicted Guru Gobind Singh Ji in his latter years. Most notably, they had written to the Emperor Aurangzeb, who sat on the throne of Delhi, who had previously ordered the execution of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib. They tried fighting with Guru Gobind Singh Ji. They were defeated in every battle. So then they turned to Aurangzeb and said, the son of Guru Tegh Bahadur, whose head you had separated from his body, is now intent on revenge. He's getting more and more powerful. He has a huge army. We tried to displace him. We cannot. We've heard rumors that he's going to march on Delhi to take revenge for his father's killing. So Aurangzeb responded. Punjab at that time had 2 major cities. You had Lahore, which was the capital of Punjab. The second city of Punjab was Sarhand. So Sarhand was a hugely powerful province within a province actually. And it was ruled by Nawab Wazir Khan, whose overlord was Aurangzeb. So Wazir Khan was tasked with removing Guru Sahib from Anandpur. The history is long and convoluted. I won't go into that because our subject is different today. But to unwrap the mission that Banda Singh was given. So this is Ratan Singh Pangu's imagination. He says that the Guru told him, go back to Sarhand and bring Wazir Khan to justice. Also bring the hill Rajas to justice. That is your mission. Now how is he going to fulfill his mission? the Guru gives him 5 Sikhs, 5 of his beloved Sikhs. He gives him his standard, his nishan. He gives him a drum. He gives him one of his arrows, and he says, "Off you go." 5 men with Banda Singh Bahadur. He's way down south. He has no resources, and he has been given this formidable task to go subdue the second largest city in Punjab and go defeat the mighty hill rajas in battle. He has become the Guru's Banda. What choice does he have? Of course, he's very enthusiastic about his mission. He sets out, and actually some drama ensues as well. The rest of the Sikhs are a little upset. They go to the Guru and say, "You have told us that you are giving your power to all of us. So why has Banda Singh been elevated?" And the Guru explains to them that Banda is not my successor. I have not appointed him to succeed me. He has simply been empowered to go on a mission. And he is very pleased because he sees that this Republican spirit which he has imparted to them has really seeped into them. When they see one man being exalted above others, there is immediate consternation. The Guru likes that. That's what he wants. He knows that that spirit is going to be tremendously important. So Banda goes north. Word of his mission slowly starts to spread. He has no resources. And then almost miraculously, a group of Sikhs who are traders come to his camp and they give him a certain amount of money. So Banda keeps marching north. He skirts Delhi because he doesn't have the resources to engage in open warfare yet. And slowly, as he reaches Punjab, the Sikhs start flocking to his banner. And then he puts together a very ill-equipped small army because they don't have a lot of money. They cannot buy guns. They can't buy muskets. They don't have horses. So it's a ragtag army, mostly consisting of poor farmers and peasants. And then they start marching north. They come to a city called Samana. So Samana is also an important town, and Samana is home to some of those who have acted as executioners and torturers, excuse me. Leo mar jab shahar samano, tab turkan sir कहर बिहानो, बिन बोधी जो सिंगन पायो, तुम पर जिम तिन शीश उड़ायो. So Banda and his soldiers descend on Samana, and this is Ratan Singh Pangu's imagination. He says that all the Muslims were put to death. Sikh historians, some Sikh historians disagree with this account, but this is Ratan Singh Pangu's poetry. Bajire Kara jab kiyo, samane bhi the naal, faujdaar o bhi hute, palke bai bar. So he says that Samana was also responsible in Wazir Khan's terrible deed of killing the 2 younger Sahibzade who were put in a brick wall and suffocated to death. Shahar Samano jab layo maar, gayo dalitran var, tab bande ne chit bichari, bajire lute fauj ka bhari. Bajira is a pejorative reference to Wazir Khan. So the mighty Wazir Khan is referred to as Bajira by Ratan Singh Pangu. So he says that when Banda Singh Bahadur subdued Samana, then he decided that he would take Wazir Khan on head-on because he had the confidence now after winning battles. Banda Singh Bahadur then proceeded to another very important town called Salora, which was earlier known as Sadhuvara. It was a place of pilgrimage. Thank you. It was a place of pilgrimage, but there was a very repressive Mughal governor in the town who he defeated. There are colorful stories about the sack of Sonora, which are recounted in the book that we don't have time to get into. And then finally, Banda Singh Bahadur was ready to take on Wazir Khan. His army had been swelled by a large number of local peasants who had been suffering under the rule of Wazir Khan, because the feudal system was very much in place at that time, and a lot of the landowners didn't own the land. They had no rights. They eked out, a bare subsistence. The land was owned by zamindars who then paid homage to the Mughal governors. That was how land was organized at that time. So Banda Singh Bahadur met Wazir Khan at a place called Chappar Chidi. That was the site of the big battle between Wazir Khan and Banda Singh Bahadur. And I go to a brief excerpt from Ratan Singh Pangu again, talking about the battle. Bande ka dera sun aya, saho bajira ladne dhaya, top jambure muhre dhare, tiske saath pyade kare. So jambure is jamburaks, camel-mounted guns. So he says that Wazir Khan showed up with lots of camel-mounted guns, a lot of infantry, a lot of cavalry. Ikwal koi shukr hatnar, is bidkari ladan ki kar, duk bande dig shalat chalai, jan golan barkha barkhai, top jambure, rehkal bhare, चलवाए बजीरे जो थो सारे गोले चले जंजीरे जोड़ लगे बिर्च उस सुट्टे तोड़. So he describes the battle where there's a terrible fusillade of gunfire, matchlock fire, jamburak fire. Wazir Khan has cannons, so the cannonballs are tied to each other with chains. So when these cannonballs with chains are shot at Banda Singh Bahadur's troops, they decimate the troops, they even uproot trees. So this is his very, very colorful depiction of the battle. Goli barse jaise mein khade behan kis pain na deh, dhoo uthi bhai din te raat, घोड़े पग बहुत धूड़ उड़ा, जन कर लही हनेरी रात, तोड़े चमक टिटाने बात, धुआं धार उठ हो गई घटा, दमकत प्याले जन बिज छटा. So he describes this fearful scene where night has turned into day, the horses' hoofs have raised a huge cloud of dust, the bullets being fired from guns, the guns fired look like glowworms in the day has almost turned to night. So he paints this beautiful, beautiful picture, a very poetic picture of the battle. And against all odds, Banda Singh Bahadur prevails. And he is able to defeat Wazir Khan, kill him in battle. The city resists for several days. Finally, Banda Singh Bahadur is able to breach the walls of Sarand, and he marches into Sarand triumphantly. Ratan Singh Pangu's account talks about terrible slaughter that occurred in Sarand when Banda Singh and his army entered. The first to be punished is Diwan Suchanand, who was one of the ministers of Wazir Khan. And it is said that when the fate of the Guru's younger sons was being debated in Wazir Khan's court, Nawab Sher Muhammad of Malerkotla spoke up against executing them because he felt that they were just children. And Wazir Khan was almost swayed. And at that point, Diwan Suchanand was the one who went to him and said, "These are the children of snakes. If you spare the children of snakes, they will grow up and they will bite you. You have to execute them." So Diwan Suchanand, in that sense, was partly responsible for the walling alive of the younger Sahibzade, and he was one of the first to be punished. The story of Banda Singh Bahadur from here on is very, very colorful. In the interest of time, I'm going to give you a very, very short version of it. So Banda Singh Bahadur captured Sadan, started capturing territory around Sadan. He occupied a fort of Mukhlispur, which was in the foothills, renamed it Lohgarh, the Iron Fort, and set up a de facto government there. He issued coins. Most importantly, he instituted land reforms where a lot of the peasants who had toiled under zamindars were made the owners of the land. So it was a brief rule, but it was tremendously enlightened, and most importantly, it was very much in the mold, the egalitarian mold of Guru Nanak Sahib's ideals that we talked about, the ideals of equality, the ideals of the empowerment of all sections of society. Of course, it was not going to last, because Punjab was ruled by the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire was very powerful. So the Peerzadas of Samana and Sadan, the scions of the lofty houses, all petitioned the Emperor Bahadur Shah, who was campaigning in Rajasthan at that time. And they talked about this huge disturbance that had been created by this rebel Banda Singh Bahadur. So the emperor decided to cut short his campaign in Rajasthan and turn his attention to Banda Singh Bahadur. So accompanied by all of his major generals, his 4 sons, Jahandar Shah, Asim Ushan, Rafiz Ushan, as well as Jahan Shah, accompanied by all of his sons, his Rajput chiefs, his generals, Bahadur Shah entered Punjab with a large army, laid siege to Lohgarh, and then, of course, the inevitable happened. The Lohgarh fort was overrun, and Banda Singh Bahadur was able to escape into the hills. So it was a victory for the emperor, but somewhat of an empty victory because Banda Singh Bahadur survived. And then Banda Singh Bahadur raised an army again because a lot of his army had been decimated at Lohgarh, and he went and fought against the hill chiefs, most notably the king of Kahlur, essentially completing the mission that Guru Gobind Singh Ji had entrusted to him. Finally, Bahadur Shah died, and as was the case during the times of the later Mughals, a fierce battle of succession broke out between his sons. 3 of his sons were killed, and his least capable son, perhaps the oldest, Jahandar Shah, was crowned the next Mughal emperor. Jahandar Shah's rule was also destined to be short, largely driven by the 2 powerful Sayyid brothers who had served one of his sons, Azim Ushan, who used to govern the provinces of Bihar, and was the wealthiest and most powerful of Bahadur Shah's sons. His son, Farooq Siyar, ascended the Mughal throne. And it was during Farooq Siyar's time that it was determined that Banda Singh Bahadur has to be dealt with. So Farooq Siyar deputed a large army. It was commanded by some of his chief nobles, whom we will encounter subsequently in the history as well. So the Mughal court at that time had multiple factions. One of the most important faction, the most powerful faction, hailed from Samarkand. So they were called the Turanis, and the head of the faction at that time was Muhammad Amin Cheen Bahadur, who was one of his most important generals and who had been sent to capture Banda Singh Bahadur and who had failed. So now, his son, Kamaruddin, was one of the generals who was charged with bringing Banda Singh Bahadur to book. And then there were 2 other Turanis, Abdul Samad Khan, who was related to Kamaruddin Khan, and Abdul Samad Khan's son, Zakaria Khan, who was also going to become an important figure in Punjab in the years that followed. They finally managed to corner Banda Singh Bahadur in a small village called Gurdas Nangal. There was a little mud fort there. And the siege lasted for a long time. The Banda Singh Bahadur and his soldiers, they tried to starve them into submission. So fearful were the Mughals of Banda Singh Bahadur, and so prevalent were the tales of his supernatural powers that there were rumors that Banda Singh Bahadur was going to turn himself into a cat or a dog and escape from Gurdas Nangal. So what the Mughals did was, any dog or cat that could be found in the environs of the siege were all put to death, so that Banda couldn't manifest himself as a cat or a dog and run away. So, such was the mystique of Banda Singh Bahadur. There was a fierce battle. I have a fabulous excerpt from Ratan Singh Pandhu, but I don't think I have time to read it. You can read it in the book. So after a long battle, Banda Singh was subdued, and then he was marched to Delhi. Now, Farrukh Siyar was one of the emperors, Mughal emperors, who precipitated the decline of the Mughal Empire. One of the things that Farrukh Siyar did, without realizing the import of what he was doing, was give the East India Company its first toehold in India. So the East India Company had established a small encampment in Bengal, and its ambassadors, they were known as the Sermon Embassy, were present in Delhi when Banda Singh Bahadur was brought there in chains. So my last chapter on Banda Singh Bahadur has an extended excerpt from the diaries of the British who were in Delhi at that time, who were eyewitnesses to the tremendous inhuman torture that Banda Singh Bahadur and his Sikhs were subjected to after they were brought to Delhi. I mean, it really, it's heart-rending is the only way to describe it. Abdul Samad Khan, for his role in subduing Banda Singh Bahadur, was awarded the full governorship of Lahore. So Abdul Samad Khan became the Subedar of Lahore. And Farrukh Siyar and Abdul Samad Khan decided that the rebel Sikhs should not be given any breathing room because Banda's rebellion had just ended. So a huge measure, a huge set of repressive measures were put in place by Abdul Samad Khan in Punjab. Several important things happened at that time. So Abdul Samad Khan passed away, and his son Zakaria Khan became the next Subedar of Punjab. At that time, we have references to an important movement that started within the Sikhs to organize. Because remember, let's go back, the Guru passes away, doom and despair, then we have the rise of Banda Singh Bahadur, a few years of unimaginable glory. Banda Singh Bahadur is put to death. Once again, there is gloom and doom. And once again, you have really oppressive and repressive measures that are put in place, first by Abdul Samad Khan, and then by his son Zakaria Khan. Farrukh Siyar is deposed by the Abdullah brothers, the very courtiers who had exalted him, and a couple of insignificant Mughal emperors follow, who both die in quick succession, all from the family of Bahadur Shah. And then finally, Roshan Akhtar, who is the son of Jahan Shah, the youngest son of Bahadur Shah, is now appointed the new Mughal emperor by the Abdullah brothers. He takes on the title of Muhammad Shah. So Muhammad Shah now ascends to the Mughal throne. He is going to have a long reign, but it's going to be a reign that spells the true devastation and doom of the Mughal Empire. We'll talk about Muhammad Shah some more. So that is when the Sikhs decide to call the Sarbat Khalsa. So I'm going to read a small excerpt from my book, Sketches of the Sikhs, John Malcolm, who travelled in Punjab in the 18th century, describes a Sarbat Khalsa that he witnessed. When the chiefs and principal leaders are seated, the Ad Granth and the Dasam Padshah Ka Granth are placed before them. They all bend their hands. So this is an eyewitness account of John Malcolm, who travelled through Punjab at that time. They all bend their heads before these scriptures and exclaim, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. A great quantity of cakes made of wheat, butter and sugar, he's talking about Kada Prasad here, are placed before the volumes of their sacred writings and covered with a cloth. I'll move forward a little. The Akalis, when the prayers are finished, desire the council to be seated. So the Akalis are a militant order of the Sikhs, also known as Nihangs, who are often the custodians of gurdwaras and important places of Sikh worship at that time. They sit down, and the cakes being uncovered are eaten by all classes of Sikhs. So Kada Prasad is given to everyone. The Akalis then exclaim, Sardars, this is a Gurmata, on which prayers are said again. They then proceed to confer and reflect on the danger with which they are threatened, to settle the best plan for averting it, and to choose the generals who are to lead their armies against a common enemy. This is the Republican spirit that I was talking about. A large gathering is called, everyone is equal, there is vigorous debate, and after that debate, the consensus decision that is reached is called the Gurmata, which literally means the will of the Guru. So, Diwan Darbara Singh, who is one of the leaders of the Sikhs, calls the Sarbat Khalsa, presides over it, and the following Gurmata is issued. The administration of Zakaria Khan would not be allowed to fill its treasury by collecting revenues from surrounding areas, which would be seized by the Khalsa. Imperial armories would be raided in order to acquire arms for the Khalsa. Imperial stables would be attacked to ensure that a cavalry could be raised. Those who sympathized with the administration and collaborated with it would be punished. Open rebellion is now declared by the Sikhs under the command of Diwan Darbara Singh. And then, in the months that follow, Sikhs continue to raid with impunity wherever the Mughals are collecting tax, because tax is often collected in kind. So the Sikhs plunder them and distribute the wealth. A tenth they save for, giving back to the Panth for the common good. The rest they distribute equally amongst themselves. So there is heavy plundering of government resources, which causes tremendous consternation among the Mughals. Zakaria Khan unleashes tremendously repressive measures, puts a price on every Sikh's head. Every Sikh becomes an outlaw, and it is decreed that if somebody brings in the body of a Sikh dead or alive, they will be given a reward. Under those conditions, the Sikhs still persist, and Zakaria Khan is absolutely at his wit's end. He doesn't know what to do. He decides to take a different approach. He petitions the Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah Rangile and says that why don't we confer a jagir or a land grant upon the Sikhs? Let's give them a stake in society so that they don't resort to plundering. Let's co-opt them rather than fighting them. Did several of you, or did any of you watch a movie called Mastane that came out a couple of years ago? Nobody? So, this is a quasi-fictitious story about a bunch of entertainers, who are commissioned by Nadir Shah to talk about the Sikhs. This is actually based on a different history. So Gyani Gyan Singh, who wrote the Naveen Panth Prakash, with great color talks about how Zakaria Khan petitioned Muhammad Shah Rangile. So Muhammad Shah was also known as Muhammad Shah Rangile, the colorful one. He had a very interesting personality. He was a connoisseur of the arts. He was a poet himself. Those of you who listen to Shastriya Sangeet might have heard the names Adarang and Sadarang, which are often heard in Khayal compositions. These were court musicians in the court of Muhammad Shah Rangile who pioneered the Khayal form of singing, which is the dominant form in Indian classical music today. So he was a great patron of the arts. He was no warrior. So it's said that Zakaria Khan sent a troupe of entertainers to Muhammad Shah Rangile's court who acted like Sikhs so that the emperor could understand the great threat that was presented by the Sikh community. And it's said that after the emperor saw the farce that was enacted at his court, he decided that he would follow Zakaria Khan's suggestion, and he said, okay, go ahead and confer a land grant. So I'm going to recount this very quickly, and then I'm going to go fast because we're running out of time. So the Sikhs are assembled, and Sarbpreet Singh, a contractor in Lahore, who's a Sikh, is deputed by Zakaria Khan to take the land grant, a killat, a robe of honor, other gifts, a kalgi, an agate that's put on the turban as a sign of royalty. So Sarbpreet Singh goes and meets the Khalsas. Diwan Darbara Singh is presiding. There's a lot of discussion. A lot of the Sikhs, including Darbara Singh, say, the Guru gave us sovereignty. Why should we accept this tiny land grant that Zakaria Khan is giving us? There's a lot of debate. And then finally, some of the Sikhs feel that a truce with Zakaria Khan would be a good idea, because one of the biggest difficulties for the Sikhs was that they could not visit the Sri Harmandir Sahib, because Zakaria Khan knew that Sikhs would come there, he would post guards there, Sikhs would be killed. So they figured that it might be judicious to accept the land grant, accept a truce, regroup, and get access to their shrines. So it was decided by the council that we will accept the grant. Now the question was, who was going to be the Nawab? Because Zakaria Khan had offered a Nawabi to one of the Sikhs. So again, there's a big debate. And a lot of the Sikhs say, Diwan Darbara Singh should be the Nawab. Diwan Darbara Singh says, no, I'm old, my time is limited, it should be a younger person. So there is a young person there in the assembly who is fanning everyone. His name is Kapoor Singh. So there's a lot of discussion, and one of the Sikhs present says that the one who serves, the one who is truly committed to serving, should become the next Nawab. And all eyes turn to Kapoor Singh because he's a young man of exceptional ability, very humble, always serving. And there's a story, probably apocryphal, which says that when the Sikhs approached Kapoor Singh and said, we want you to be our Nawab, Kapoor Singh very reluctantly agreed, but he said, I have one more duty. So his job was to sweep the horse stables and clean horse shit out of the horse stables. So Kapoor Singh says, I will accept the Nawabi only if my job will not be taken away from me. So his humility was very, very genuine. And over the next decades, Kapoor Singh was the legendary figure who marshaled the resources of the Sikh Panth. The truce with Zakaria Khan didn't last very long. It was broken by Zakaria Khan. The repressive measures came back. And recognizing that the Sikhs had to be better organized, Kapoor Singh did several visionary things. He organized his fighting divisions into two parts, the Buddha Dal and the Taruna Dal. So the Buddha Dal were the older warriors whose responsibility was to look after all the shrines, to minister to the Sikhs. The Taruna Dal were the young warriors who were the sword arm of the Panth. So the warriors were organized into these two tiers. They were given their own commanders. They were given a structure. And then over the next several years, they were the ones who morphed into the legendary 11 missiles of Punjab, which then consolidated power. Hanji, time da ki sab hai ji, so we should. So I'm going to wind this down now. This is just a small taste of that time in which, I would say that the character of the Sikhs, as we understand it today, was forged in the crucible that was the 18th century. It was a time of great tribulations. The sufferings of the Sikhs have to be, are almost unbelievable, because many, many years of repression were going to follow. Shortly afterwards, Nadir Shah of Persia attacked Hindustan and broke the back of the Mughal Empire. He was harried by the Sikhs on his way back. And then when he was assassinated, one of his lieutenants, an Afghan named Ahmad Shah Abdali, took a lot of the treasure that Nadir Shah had looted from Hindustan and set up his own kingdom in Afghanistan. Ahmad Shah Abdali was to attack Punjab 8 times, by some accounts 9 times during his lifetime. The only ones who would offer any resistance to them would be the Sikhs, and they paid a heavy, heavy price for that resistance. During one military action, Ahmad Shah Abdali, it is said, decimated close to 30 to 40% of the Sikh Panth in one fell swoop in a massacre which is remembered today as the Vardaka Lukara, or the Great Holocaust. The Sikhs, however, persisted, and by the time Abdali had passed away and Punjab had descended into absolute chaos, because the Mughal government had been further weakened under the successive Mughal emperors who followed Muhammad Shah Rangile. So by 1780, going through this ordeal by fire, the Sikhs had become the de facto rulers of the Punjab, ruling even the kingdom of Lahore. 3 Sikh Sardars, Sobha Singh Kanhaiya, Lehna Singh Pangi, and Gujjar Singh Pangi, after another Sarbat Khalsa, decided to occupy Lahore. So history could have been very, very different, because the last Mughal emperor in this time period was the very weak Shah Alam, who was the son of the previous emperor Alamgir II. Shah Alam had been casting about for a protector who would guarantee his throne, because Mughal power was completely gone, and the Mughal throne, to the extent that it was even a throne, was propped up by various interests. So it is said that Jassa Singh Ahluwalia, who was one of the proteges of Nawab Kapoor Singh, wrote to Shah Alam saying that the Sikhs would become the guarantors of Mughal power. And Shah Alam was amenable. And Shah Alam wrote back to Jassa Singh Ahluwalia saying, if you Sikhs were to present a united front, I would be delighted to take you up on your offer. But that same Republican spirit that was the biggest strength of the Sikhs at this time also turned out to be their undoing, because no Sikh Sardar was ready to defer to any other Sikh Sardar. So the net result was that the Sikhs actually occupied Delhi. Peace Hazari in Delhi is the place where 30,000 Sikhs under the command of Baghel Singh camped. When Baghel Singh, Jassa Singh Ahluwalia, Jassa Singh Ramgarhia attacked Delhi, Baghel Singh was appointed the Kotwal of Delhi. He stayed here for several months. He was allowed to collect 40% of the octroi of Delhi to fund his resources, and it was during that time period that he built all the historical gurdwaras in Delhi that we take such pride in. Then Baghel Singh returned to Punjab, and it was the Marathas who stepped in and guaranteed, Mughal power. Of course, it was not something that the Marathas couldn't enjoy that power either, because several things happened, including the Battle of Panipat, and then subsequent actions with the British that brought about a demise of the Marathas. But now I'm talking about my next book, which I'm writing right now, volume 3 of this series. So I'll stop right here, and just to summarize, the 18th century was an extremely interesting time in the history of the North Indian part of the subcontinent, where you had this array of competing powers. You had a weak Mughal court, you had a strong kingdom in Afghanistan. At one point, Punjab was formally ceded to the Afghans by Muhammad Shah Rangile's son, Ahmad Shah. The Afghans had no interest in ruling Punjab. They tried to rule it briefly under Taimur Shah, the son of Ahmad Shah Abdali, but a combined force of the Sikhs and the Marathas threw them out of Lahore. They were mostly interested in plunder. The Mughals were very weak. The Mughal Empire had started to break up. Their provincial governors had started to assert their independence. So Punjab descended into chaos, out of which it was rescued to a large extent by the Sikh chiefs. So the 60-plus bands of Sikhs who made up the Buddha Dal and the Taruna Dal were reorganized into 11 missals or confederacies, and then they fanned out into different areas of Punjab, established their areas of control, and really created the conditions. So when Ranjit Singh was born in 1780, so several writers, including Khushwant Singh, bemoaned the fact that the road to Delhi was rolled out like a red carpet for the Sikhs, but they could not take advantage of it because they did not have a truly visionary leader in their ranks. Well, there was a visionary leader, but he had just been born. So the opportunity was squandered, but then 20 years later, Ranjit Singh marched into Lahore with the legacy of all of the Sardars who came before him, who had essentially created Sikh power in Punjab, and he was able to parlay that into the mighty, mighty empire of Lahore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to invite the chair to give his presiding remarks.
An honor to have presided over a function where Sarbpreet Singh, an eminent historian and broadcaster, commentator, was to speak. Actually, the way I was chosen by Dr. Harinder Singh to preside over the function was that for 62 years I was a lecturer in history over at Government College, and over 60 years ago I joined IPS. And after that I had no touch with the Punjab history at all. I learned and I noted quite a few things here which I could recollect at that time. Sarbpreet Singh had mentioned about Cunningham's book. I remember having read it 64 years ago, the same book. And good thing about the book is that wherever he writes about the history part, he also writes the calculations of what is the source of information of that particular part also. And I have lived in Sadan for 3-4 years. All these things, my father was Tahsildar there. And I have seen those places which were destroyed by Bhai Singh. And also I have seen a mosque which was not touched. As a part of the Sikh convention, they had not touched any religious place of the Muslim. Although the whole town of Sarabpreet was demolished. I have seen that place also. Again, I spent 3 years in Malaykotla also. I was studying there at that time. And this Sheikh Muhammad, who was the Nawab of Malaykotla, who objected to the breaking alive of the 2 young Sahibzadas, people still remember, and they have never forgotten that gesture. During the partition, whenever a Muslim was chased by the Hindus and Sikhs, if his one step had entered the Malaykotla boundary, he was not chased at all. But the same Sheikh Muhammad was killed along with Wazir Khan in the Battle of Siri, because that was a fight. Then I again remembered Banda Singh Bahadur issuing a coin, Dego Dego Fateh, Nasruto Bedram, Just Sadnana Guru Gobind Singh. So that period of 18th century which Dr. Sarbpreet Singh has covered, I think This is a period of conflict between three forces, the emerging Sikhs and the powerful Afghans and the declining Mughal Empire. All these three phases are distinct actually, and the culmination of that phase was, as Dr. Sarbpreet Singh has mentioned, about the Bhai Vir Singh and Justice Singh Ahluwalia, Justice Singh Ramgarhia attacking Delhi and capturing Delhi for 2-3 days they were there. And ultimately they did not have any plan of establishing an empire there. They returned because they wanted to celebrate Diwali of Water. So I don't have much to add to that, and I wish all the best to Dr. Sarbpreet Singh for his next book. It will be much more informative. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Sadan, Dr. Harinder Singh to give a vote of thanks.
Well, first of all, to the young friends, and I would not like to stand between tea and you, therefore I'm not imposing any vote of any speech on you. One thing he said about the Sikh character, Guru Singh made everyone equal. It's difficult to decide who's a leader. Everyone is a leader. And when he was talking about Red Fort, I noticed the date, 11th March 1782. There is a historian called Dr. Hiram Gupta, my senior friend. Tiptawai is sitting here. She is a medieval expert, medieval expert. Now, at one stage, Justice Singh Ahluwalia sat on the Mughal throne. After 2 days, Justice Singh of Ramgarhia, another Sikh, came with 20,000 soldiers. He says, Sikhs have no tradition of becoming Badshah. The people started calling him Singh Badshah, King, Badshah. He says, oh, दूसरे तरफ की पता है, Sikhs के Badshah अंदर ही तलवारें चलाएंगे, वो छड़ के चलाएंगे. What happened? If you have gone to Golden Temple, Justice Singh Ramgarhia removed that stone with King used to sit, tied it with the chains, and through an elephant, dragged it to the Golden Temple. He says, Badshah, tera takat, sare darbar, sab to nahi hoega. If you go to Golden Temple, not many people know about this. Left side is Ramgarhia Puga, on Langar entry, right? This Lal Kila is at the feet down below the Golden Temple. That is what they wanted to do. But they did. And I'm reminded of slogan which gentleman from Delhi, Jagdev Singh Bakshi used to write on the boundary walls of Bangla. And that is, Je Sikhna Mare, the Kom Kade Na Hare. Why Sikhs are defeated? Because they fight with themselves. That is their Khalsa spirit. They don't, and that is what is happening in Punjab. I mean, who are fighting with their own people, Khalistan, no Khalistan, who don't want Khalistan, but who don't condemn either. So I think Sikh spirit of egalitarianism is a positive thing, but then as Sarbpreet Singh told us, they were very wise people. They close the doors, debate, fight, and finally come out with agreed solution called Gurmat. It's Guru's order. This is what we need to learn. And my again thanks to Sarbpreet Singh, who gave us a brilliant lecture, and to our senior vice president, Bhai Sidhu. I couldn't think of anyone, and I couldn't maybe. If the wife was there, I wish I had known that she was coming. So I thank both of you and also young friends and these young friends here and there. I don't know whether you have been forced to come and listen to the lecture or you are able to come on your own. So I think you will enjoy it, and please join us for a cup of tea. Thank you very much.